Literally, I'm so fucking sick of these so-called Christians, so-called conservative Christians, what, whatever labels that you want to put on yourself. If you subscribe to any sort of Christian values whatsoever, you're not practicing them. All right? I'm not a practicing Christian. I'm not, I don't subscribe to any religion whatsoever. But you know what? I actually still actively read my Bible, not from front to back, which I have done twice, by the way, but I still revisit scriptures and certain sections that I could use some, refreshers on. Because it is regardless of religion, the Bible, especially the King James Version, in my opinion, is a really, really damn good source of, you know, stories and morals. Granted, not as a whole. And that tends to be the problem when it comes to people subscribing to any sort of religion whatsoever because they think that their doctrine is just 100% infallible. We literally have made laws that have made biblical laws invalid. Old and New Testament, especially Old Testament. But if you read them, if you read the general stories overall, you can see the lessons being taught. If you don't take them at face value, if you don't take them as literal, this is historical happenings, whether it was actually a historical happening or not, that's not the point. You missed the point. The point is the lessons. And again, unfortunately, in a lot of especially the Old Testament, a lot of the lessons were about subservience of women, subservience of your slaves, because yes, the Bible does still adhere to the idea of slavery and women not having their, agency at all, but when except for when they do and when it matters for the glory of God. So disregarding all of that bullshit, first of all, let's go with the general teachings of Christianity, or at least as I was taught. Now, the Old Testament was the Old Testament, was the old doctrine. And as far as I also understand from the Jewish perspective, that is also generally the doctrine. But still, there, I, yeah, that was the original doctrine from Christianity specifically. We're not going to get into the other stuff. Now, the New Testament. The New Testament is supposed to be, as I was taught, the what was it called? It was there is a specific term for it. I cannot think of it for the life of me right now. I apologize. But it was to summarize, The Old Testament, yeah, acknowledge the Old Testament, still read it, acknowledge it, but the New Testament is literally the new, the rebirth, basically the rebirth, the figurative rebirth of Christianity as it as it was created when the New Testament specifically was put together by Romans and all that. And those are historical aspects which are documented and actually stated in the New Testament itself. Which is why you get names like John, Mark, Luke, and Matthew instead of the actual Middle Eastern names of individuals. You get more Caucasus Mountains names, name origins. I'm, that's just history. Anyway, so regardless of the literal history, the New Testament was supposed to be a a declaration of the the so I believe it was someone called like the new covenant, where it was also predicted in the later books in the Older Testament, which a lot of people like to ascribe to as predicting the coming of Jesus Christ. But for, at least from my readings, it it is actually predicting, or not even predicting, but showcasing the change in time of belief, of subservience to man over subservience to God. Now, the difference being the Old Testament was highly about kings and lords and servitude. That's, you can debate me all you want, that is objectively true. So when you give a group of people a sense of agency that they apparently never had before, a certain amount of them are going to run with it. Which, yeah, honestly, more power to them because they've suddenly been given this power. And granted, the transition wasn't immediate. It was over actually a couple hundred years, historically speaking. But once it happened, it also did happen under, oh, what is it? King, not King Louis. There, whoever was the king at the time. I gotta look up my sources again. I'm sorry, but there was literally the king at the time had his likeness scribed. Oh, it was the king who was trying to take over, uh, um, the growing empire, and his name was Constantine. All right, and then they took over the Turkish area, what was now known as the Turkish area. He took over it and renamed it Constantinople. Constantine, his likeness, was literally scribed, painted to look like Jesus Christ. And that's literally the Jesus Christ, the picture of Jesus Christ that we know of today. The beard, the goatee beard, the 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 white motherfucker with long brown hair who would fit more in the Roman Catholic narrative rather than the Middle Eastern narrative. So we've already got that as an established lie. But doctrines still stay. Treat others how you want to be treated. If I am summarizing, if someone desecrates the house of the Lord in particular just for the sake of greed, whip those bastards. They're going to get far more punishment in hell. And you can seek forgiveness, but honestly, personally, I don't think you should seek forgiveness for teaching somebody a goddamn lesson that they needed to learn because they're taking advantage of people. And that's literally just a general summary of a lot of the actual scriptures in the Bible. How many of you people, literally, how many of you people who have listened this far, how many of you actually recognize any of those stories or know of all of those stories? And if you know any more particular details to add, please put them forth. I know them too. I just need to go reread. But if you know, please showcase it. We need more people to actually showcase the fact that they know the scriptures, that they know what they're talking about. Like, please. Be better human beings. Don't just try to jump on bandwagons of holy crusades with no basis. I'm not a Christian. Dare I say, I'm more Christ-like than most of you.